I'm sorry, I speak Greek, but I don't speak Greek well enough to speak about what I'm going to be speaking about and to make myself understood. I could do Zulu, but I think that might be a problem. I can't describe to you what it means to be here, because the last time that I was in this space, my bed was right here. I used to sleep here, literally, okay? And this was my apartment, and it was remarkable. The only difference then, there wasn't that big building across the way, and the view was much more open towards the city. It was the most amazing place to live. It's incredible. I used to have a little dog in those days. Fox terrier, he looked exactly like Milou. And he used to run through the museum at night sometimes and switch all the alarms on. He was famous amongst the guards over here. We'd all go running after him in the middle of the night with the alarms ringing, the police arriving, and all sorts of stuff. So it was really interesting times. Can I have the lights a little lower, please? Thank you. Living in this apartment, I was at the time working for McCann Erickson here in Athens. And I used to do a lot of work in this apartment. And the music that I used to listen to, I remember this so well. A piece. It comes from the movie Blade Runner, 1982. And composed and played by Vangelis. I absolutely love this music. And I remember so well sitting in this apartment, working on creative work. Because as a creative guy, I'd work very late at night, on my own, very often. And here are some of the campaigns I did whilst I was here. I did the relaunch of Metaxa as the Greek Spirit, working with Dennis Malamatinas, John Kostopoulos, who's now with Atlantic Petroleum, and Howard Prince Wright, who might be here tonight. Another campaign that I worked on was this one over here, chosen by the gods of Greece. And my favorite headline, I found a photograph of the Acropolis with a shaft of light coming through from the clouds. It was like a spotlight on the Parthenon. And I wrote a headline which said, "Thank God she left the light on." Talking about Athena, of course, the goddess of wisdom. Okay? And that's what I still feel today. Thank God she left the light on. But this was an amazing place to live and to work, because it's so full of inspiration. It's so full of inspiration. To know that you're sitting on top of this incredible wealth of civilization, right, which goes back thousands of years before the classical period, is unbelievable. And I really thank all of you for being here tonight, because what we're contributing to is exactly this inspiration amongst kids. And I'll talk about that a little more. I gave a speech in Thessaloniki in November. That was like 4 months ago. And I finished with this phrase over here. We are Greeks. We have the power to imagine. And now it is time to imagine the future. We're going through a crisis. We've accepted some of the most severe austerity measures that have ever been accepted in modern history. The nation is suffering because of those. But I believe that there's a golden opportunity inside here, because our lives have been disrupted. We have to think differently. We can't carry on thinking the way that we were, because it's just not going to get us anywhere. It's like all of a sudden there's danger in front of us. And survival is the strongest instinct that we've got. And when you're faced with true danger, it's amazing what resources you've got inside of yourself. And I believe that this country is so full of resource. It's unbelievable. I was interviewed by Stavros Theodorakis, I think it was last week, the week before, and I made this statement, that we will never be good Germans. And I feel that as a nation right now, we're under pressure to become good Germans, to behave like Germans. And by the way, I've got nothing whatsoever against Germans. I used to be married to one. I used to be married to one. But I'm using this as Northern European norms being imposed on us. Of course, we've got work to do. But we will never be good Germans. I wouldn't buy a Greek motor car over a Mercedes-Benz, would you? I don't think so. But we can become great Greeks. And we have to become great Greeks. And that's what we are. We're Greeks. And let's become the most amazing Greeks that we can be. Because we can do it. I've divided tonight's presentation into 4 chapters. The first chapter, I'm going to talk about cultural diversion. Because my strong sense is that for the past 30 years, we've hit a cultural roadblock, if you like. We've taken a detour, okay? We've deviated so much from who we are. And I see this every day. We've become rampant consumers, unbelievably rampant consumers. We've gone broke in the process, by the way. Not surprising. Rampant consumerism doesn't work unless you're producing. So I want to talk about this cultural diversion, which I think is terribly important. And this, to me, is the real crisis, which has led to the financial crisis. Because I keep reminding myself, economics is the score. It's how you play that matters. But economics is just the score. The second chapter is all about soft power. Soft power is all about being attractive, about being magnetic. It's about people wanting to be with you. Okay? And there's a lot of soft power in this country, and I want to talk about that a bit. The third chapter is all about inspiration. And I think I don't have to go much further than to talk about this Museum of Cycladic Art in talking about inspiration. But this country is full of it. The light of Attica is inspiring. The color of the Aegean Sea is inspiring. When I moved from New York, I arrived here, and I got into a taxi. And this guy said to me, where have you come from? So I said, New York. So he spoke to me a bit. And he says to me, γιατί είσαι στην Ελλάδα, αφού έχεις καλή δουλειά στο εξωτερικό. And I realized that he just didn't get what this place is all about. He didn't understand it. And me, who was born in South Africa, who didn't grow up with all of this around him, who found himself in New York, I preferred to come back here. And that's exactly what I did. By the way, the same guy then understood I was from South Africa. And his eyes light up and he says to me, ξέρεις πως ο Μαντέλας ήταν Έλληνας? Και εγώ το λέω, no shit. And he explained to me that his father is actually Mandilas. And he came from Thessaloniki. So I said, drop me off the next corner. And the fourth chapter is all about γίνεται. Because at the end, γίνεται. I'll give you a great example of γίνεται. I went to the shop yesterday and I saw this amazing t-shirt. Except it had off-the-shoulder things, was cut like this. And I wanted to wear it, right? So I tried it on. I looked ridiculous. 3 hairs coming out. And, it was absurd. And today I've got a male version. γίνεται. Thank you very much, Evgenia. Evgenia's done a great job in organizing this, by the way. So I want to talk about γίνεται, okay? So those are the 4 chapters, just to give you an idea of where I'm going to be taking. Let's start with cultural diversion. The modern image of Greece was beautifully formed in the 60s. If you think of that black and white world that Greece represented in the 60s, it was beautifully formed. And it culminated in Zorba. And I'm not talking about Kazantzakis at Zorba, by the way. I'm talking about the movie. I'm talking about Anthony Quinn at Zorba. And the world fell in love with his character. And everybody who came to Greece met his own Zorba. And we've seen it in movies. Shirley Valentine is about this whole spirit. Right? My Big Fat Greek Wedding, in a sense, is about this spirit. This exuberance, this joyful life. And I guess every single visitor who's been here has met his own Zorba. His name might be Alexi, or it could be Dimitri, or Andoni, Yannis, Panos, Petros. And he's fallen in love with this guy. He really has fallen in love with him. Because this guy's given him something valuable. He's given him something which has changed his life. Okay? But all of a sudden, this same character, we're seeing the flip side of it. And there's a very thin line between love and hate. This guy is now seen as being a guy who retires early, who doesn't work very hard, who gets a pension which maybe he doesn't deserve. And worst of all right now, German taxpayers think that they're paying for this guy to philosophize on the beach, and they're saying, no, thank you. We've got an issue with Zorba. We've got an issue. I am not suggesting for a second that we need to get rid of Zorba. We need to evolve our image. We are much more than this. We need to bring some balance into the picture. This is Dionysus. We need some Apollo. In a talk recently, somebody said to me, Κύριε Economides, μέχρι πότε πρέπει να παρκάρουμε το Zorba? Μέχρι το Σάββατο. Here's an issue. We need to evolve. We evolved beautifully, and I'm very honored to have Dimitri Papagiannou here tonight, who was the architect of this. This is the most amazing story of a nation that I've ever seen in my life. Ever. Ever. I want to read to you a statement. This comes from a quote that a journalist wrote. The most beautiful opening ceremony in Olympic history. This spectacular event told the story of a country steeped in pride for its remarkable cultural heritage. A country which has made an incredible contribution to modern civilization. The ceremony captured the Greek joy of life, the soul, heart, and spirit of a newly transformed modern nation. It gave vision for the future. It gave Greece a role in the modern world. Okay? I was there, and most of us were there. My hair was standing up on end. On my head as well, by the way, my hair's pretty long. I was like, it was amazing. Amazing. It was the biggest gift that we got in this country. Okay? This was broadcast to hundreds of millions of people around the world through a thing called the International Broadcasting Center, which at the time was the best broadcasting center in the world. It was there, in Marousi, right next to the stadium. And what did we do? Seriously now. Seriously now. We took a revenue producer called the world's best media center, whilst Dubai was building Media City, by the way. Okay? And we converted it into a wealth sponge, selling Prada and Gucci. Okay? So you can't make money anymore, you can only spend money in this IBC. And by the way, I wonder what happened to the miles of fiber optic cable that was inside. Cultural erosion, value erosion, the detour. Just had the world raving about us, even though they doubted us before the Olympics. They raved about us. They saw our contribution. They saw our role in the future. And we just destroyed it. That's called cultural and value erosion. A quote from something that appeared in Tovima. Χάσαμε το πάθος μας για μια Πράδα. Έτσι είναι. Έτσι ακριβώς. We created a generation of consumers. And just when we thought we had it all, look what happens. Greece is something we can live without. October 6th, B20 summit in Cannes. Look at the body language. Look at the body language. Look at the bad kid. Look at how he feels. Look at the crowd around him. Okay? And then the news starts hammering us. And by the way, this is the most remarkably honest piece of journalism I've ever seen in my life. A guy called Barnaby Phillips, who's a journalist with Al Jazeera. He wrote this. And he said, somebody came up to him, a Greek, and said, why do you only show what is bad in Greece? You would not film this in your own country. And I want to show you his reply. He said, what happens next in the small country on the edge of Europe affects all of us. So be it economic salvation or else disastrous default, we'll carry on reporting this story. Reporters based in the former war zones of the Balkans, now rotate in and out of Greece in time for the latest strike or deadline We bring tripods, light cases, and satellite phones. We look for defining images, riots in Syntagma Square. And the worst of us have got our cliches ready for our scripts. Greek tragedy, Greek drama. Never mind that for most, local language skills don't extend beyond Kalimera. That won't stop the confident-sounding analysis on the 24-hour news channels. And our appetite is voracious. The modern news machine is a hungry beast, and we have to keep feeding it. That's hard reality. That's news. That's media. Unfortunately, what happens is Greek media picks it up and plays it back like it is the Bible. I am sure that if the Financial Times had to predict that on the 25th of March, 50% of Greeks will commit suicide, we would all see it beamed at us and we'd probably accept it as being the truth. Through all of this, believe it or not, there is no crisis management mechanism, which I find totally remarkable. One of the things I did in my career was manage the Perrier crisis, which you might remember in the 70s, or was it the 80s, when they found traces of benzene in Perrier, which is a disaster. You're selling Earth's first soft drink, natural, and you've got trace elements of benzene inside. It's a disaster. I was involved in crisis management on that. There were teams around the world sitting in rooms 24 hours a day, knowing exactly what to say, what not to say, what to do, what not to do. And we were sharing information with each other. I got a call from somebody in the embassy in Washington recently, and I said to her, do you have anyone to talk to when a journalist calls you? The answer is no. So what do? I said to her, I call Athens, and what happens? They don't answer me. That's criminal. There's erosion of self-esteem. I saw some research the other day, which amazed me. The first chart I saw in this research, by the way, the research was conducted amongst about 130 countries. It's global enough. And Greece's image was actually not too bad. It was somewhere in the middle. Okay? The next chart I looked at had Greece at the bottom. It measured self-esteem, national self-esteem. Extremely low. And it's not surprising. It's difficult to attract a girl when you don't have self-esteem. Very difficult. You have to feel good about yourself. Otherwise, you're not going to succeed. It's not always the good-looking guy who wins. It's the guy who feels good. When you feel good, you do great things. When you don't feel good, you can't do a thing. And a half an hour of worrying is more tiring than a week of work. We are very worried people. Here's something that appeared on my Facebook page the other day. A person wrote to me in very bad English. I've corrected some of it. And she said to me, your work is magical. As a Greek, I need to say that I am Greek and not ashamed of the bad comments I hear behind my back. Please do something to restore the hurt name of every Greek who respects himself and his country and always did. I have a need to restore my name as a Greek immediately. And I believe that you can do it best because the restoration of our living standards and a lot of others will take longer. That's smart thinking. She gets it. Number one is to fix up the way you feel about yourself before you try to do things. Sorry for my bad English, she adds, but I was afraid that you would not read my message if it would be in Greek. A proud Greek. So she's not one of these people who's got this hang-up about language. She wants to feel good about being Greek. She wants to. She needs to feel good. And I don't blame her. Second chapter, soft power. Soft power is probably best demonstrated by a magazine called Monocle. Monocle editor is the founder of Wallpaper magazine. Both of these are kind of like global style setters. If it's in Wallpaper, it used to be like that. If it was in Wallpaper, it was cool. And now it's super cool. Very simple. Okay? This magazine writes huge feature stories like the 20 best cities in the world to live in, okay? The best restaurants in the world, okay? It ran a feature recently on Australia, how Australia is becoming the next superpower. And this is a very influential magazine amongst people who really, really count. That's all about soft power. They've got a radio channel called 24. They interviewed me, by the way, a couple of weeks ago, and we spoke exactly about the things that I'm talking to you about today, about soft power in Greece. Soft power is all about attraction. It's about getting others to want what you are. Soft power is about being attractive for attracting, like a... Soft power is not about pushing, but more about pulling, okay? It should come as no surprise to you that Donald Rumsey was totally against soft power, the former defense in the US. And after 9/11, there was a big argument about the US having to exercise a lot more soft power to win over people. But the Bush administration was very much a hard power administration. We'll go and sort them out. The US, in fact, is the most powerful nation on earth because it combines incredible hard power with incredible soft power. I just give you Hollywood as an example. If you've got that mechanism, you've got the biggest soft power in the world. Okay? Yeah. India is a remarkable, and I want to read this to you. This is a quote from a journalist. India really is incredible, as their tourist board promotes. This amazing society who are generally so happy, loving, and gentle. So imperfect, yet so beautiful in many ways. It is a sharp contrast to many who are stressed about being perfect in every way, a perfection they know they can never really achieve, but spend their lives striving for it. Here, there is no such thing as perfection. It all depends on how you think about life and how you enjoy the fundamental means of fulfillment. India shows the way. That phrase for me is great. It is so imperfect yet so beautiful in so many ways. India is not a nation feeling the pressure of becoming good Germans. They're being Indians, but they're doing it very well indeed. Thank you. Hijo.
Boat acha.
India, incredible India.
We spend millions promoting and selling tourism. India promotes tourism, but it builds an understanding, it builds a story about India at the same time. A remarkable story. Here are some of their ads. No added colors, flavors, or preservatives. And of course, it gets down to hard business too, open for business, with the same umbrella. There's imperfection, yes, but it's beautiful. So they're proud of their imperfection. South Africa. That flag did not exist until 1994, when Mandela took power. That flag, by the way, was designed by an advertising agency. It's a logo, which is exactly what a flag is. I don't know why people keep doing logos for countries. They've got flags. I don't get it. The best bit of soft power I've ever seen was that. You seen the movie Invictus? When Nelson Mandela wore the green and gold rugby jersey, he made such a huge statement. And I must explain to you why. Rugby was the national sport of the Afrikaners. The Afrikaners were the ruling class in South Africa. They were the masters of apartheid. They're the people who put Mandela into jail 26 years before that. He gets into the stadium and he puts on the jersey of the enemy. Okay? My 75-year-old Greek mother became a rugby fan overnight. Seriously. And so did the rest of the country, including all the black guys who wouldn't go near rugby before that. Great soft power through sport. The Eiffel Tower is all about soft power. That was erected for an exhibition. Bilbao, a dirty, no-good industrial town on the coast of Spain. How? With the Bilbao Museum. Suddenly it's a different images for you. Soft power. The internet. We've got this incredibly powerful tool. Incredibly powerful. Do you know that there were 2.3 billion internet users around the world today? Facebook, the social media site, 850 million users. If Facebook was a country, it would be third largest in the world after India. Incredible power on that. Amazing power. Here's some of the stuff that India is doing to develop soft power, and it's using the internet exclusively for this. World's leading designers converge to co-create the future. India logs, conversations with the world. So it's not about getting Indian design, it's about getting the world engaged with India, which allows you to tell the story of India in a way that is relevant for today and tomorrow. So here's one with designers, photographers, talented young minds converge to co-create the future with India. Design and innovation enablers of India's urban future. And this stuff's out there. It's on the internet. It's a remarkable project called Future of Change, which is being done by India. Food. Incredibly powerful soft power stuff. Hey, in Spain, where you've got to book a year in advance and maybe you'll get a table. Fashion in Italy. That's Italy's power. It's the capital of design. And it goes way back to its DNA with the Renaissance. Perfect, perfect story for Italy. Countries are building soft power. In Dubai, not only did they build the largest, tallest buildings in the world's first 55-star hotel, they then had a tennis match on top of it with Agassi and with the Swiss guy, Federer, right? Sorry, I'm not a tennis fan. Abu Dhabi is importing culture, big time, because they understand the hard power called oil is going to run out on them soon. So they're importing culture. That's the new Guggenheim Museum in Abu Dhabi. In Qatar, they're importing the information economy by bringing in the best. This, by the way, is Georgetown. They've also got a Stanford. They've got a Texas A&M. They've got an MIT, all in Qatar. These guys import culture. A nation's soft power potential is a function of the strength, universality, and attractiveness of its culture and values. All I can say about Greece is, wow. What kind of soft power do we have? Are we using it? Countries are importing culture, and we've got it in spades. We don't even know how to export it. Inspiration, chapter 3. Before people can move forward, let me rephrase that. For a country to move forward, people have got to move forward. For a country to reposition itself as a brand, people have to reposition themselves. Because a country is not a tube of toothpaste. It's not even a computer. It's this incredibly complex thing with 11 million people in our case, plus another 11 million around the world. And people need to get it. And they need to understand what they've got to move forward and to reposition. And if they can do that, then the country moves forward. This is one of the most remarkable quotes, and it's Plato. At the touch of love, everyone becomes a poet.
Hi, I'm Jim Giannopoulos. No matter what area of human endeavor you look at, or what part of the world you look in, you'll always find a few Greeks. They're influential people, shaping things, making a dent in the world, and how it feels and how it thinks. It's no wonder, because we come from a rich culture and tradition. Yet the glory of Greece, so many know recently, has been the poster child of the economic crisis, the bad kid in the European community. But we all know that's not the real Greece. It's a transitional moment in a long and glorious history. And there's no greater symbol of that wonderful past than the Museum of Cycladic Art. It's like a beacon born out of the beautiful blue waters of the ancient Aegean. It's a remarkable collection of art, reveals an amazing civilization that flourished in the most beautiful part of the world, the Cycladic Islands. It's also a bold reminder of the strength of our culture and the depth of our roots. The Cycladic Museum, led by Sandra Marinopoulos, is on a mission to share with the world the remarkable treasures of this wonderful civilization. These are treasures created long before the birth of the classical Greek civilization the world now knows so well. The preservation of its treasures is a reflection of the eternal beauty of Greece, and its art is inspired by the cultural legacy of Cycladic civilization. Cycladic art is a reminder of all that we love about Greece, and it offers inspiration for all, inspiring thought, and joy and beauty and humanity, optimism, expressiveness, and above all, purity. As a Greek of the diaspora and as a lover of the arts and someone involved in the visual arts, I hope you'll take the opportunity to connect to this vision, connect to our past, and be part of a glorious legacy. I know we'll all be enriched by the great work of the Cycladic Museum. For ourselves, for our children, for the entire world, Cycladic art is pure inspiration out of the blue.
museum's done a remarkable job with the exhibition, where you've got everyday life in the front, and you've got the inspiration for all of this, the setting of all of this in the background. That's timeless stuff. That's forever stuff. That's universally attractive stuff. That's from the exhibition. Another thing that the museum is doing, which I think is absolutely amazing, is this over here, which is the educational program which reaches out to schools. So if schools can't come to the museum actually goes to schools with educational kits. And there are a whole series of them covering different aspects of what the museum covers. In fact, today's function is about supporting this particular initiative by the museum, which I think is an absolutely remarkable initiative. It really reaches out and inspires, and lets people really live it. Which means that you get faces like that. And we need faces like that. Or like that. This, by the way, comes from the visitor's book for the museum. I could speak about many things that are inspiring in Greece. I'm focusing on the museum because this is such a wonderful example of what is inspiring in this country. But there's so many more things. And they're simple things, like the meaning of philotimo, philoxenia, anthropino metro. These are all uniquely Greek concepts. Γίνεται, chapter 4. That's Fanny Chalkia winning the 400-meter hurdles, 2004. Is Fanny here, by the way? Hi, Fanny. How are you? Great to have you here. That must have been amazing, right? That must have been really, really amazing. Really amazing. Γίνεται. There's the living proof of it. Γίνεται, big time. However, it's time to trade a life of profit for a life of possibility. And I think this is a very important concept that we've got to get into our minds as Greeks. You know, we're masters at selling €8 glasses of Nescafé Frappé. We're masters at doing that. We make a lot of money out of those €8 glasses of Nescafé Frappé. And we use that money, we go and buy Porsche Cayennes. Well, that's the pursuit of profit. Okay? That's not the creation of value. The creation of value is something entirely different. I'm very happy to pay 8, 10 euros for a coffee at Starbucks because it's got value. Somebody's put something more into it for me to take out more. Okay? That creates loyalty. That creates a chain with, I think the number is 17,000 stores around the world. That's value. Not an €8 Nescafé Frappé, and if you want ice, it's €9. We ran a campaign a couple of weeks ago, headline, Give Greece a Chance, which was all about reversing some of the negative perceptions that exist in Europe, the misunderstanding about what Greeks have actually achieved under the austerity program. And also the smashing of some of these stereotypes, that Greeks are lazy, that Greeks don't want to work, and all this kind of stuff. And as a result of this, there was a lot of press. This is a particular piece that ran in Le Figaro, where they were talking about something that I actually have put forward, that my dream is that Greece in the future could be the apple of the Mediterranean. And I want to talk to you a little bit about that, because it's something that I really do believe very firmly. This is what Nick Malkoutsis from Kathimerini had to say about that. Branding Greece is, it's a crazy idea. In fact, it's an idea that is just about crazy enough to succeed. And I want to talk to you a bit about why I'm saying this. Apple computers. I've been very lucky in my life that having worked with some of the best brands in the world, and some of the greatest marketing minds in the world, but nothing comes close to this. Steve Jobs was amazing to work with. I was part of the team that relaunched Apple. And in 1997, Apple was irrelevant and bankrupt. And I am not exaggerating. The company was trading at $5 on the NASDAQ. Today, by the way, it's trading at 500. No, it's over 600 now. And it's split 6 times, so figure that out. By the way, I bought shares at €5. I thought I was a genius when I sold them at 10 the next year. If I'd kept them till today, I would have been worth an absolute fortune. Apple machines at the time were expensive, they were slow, and even the most die-hard fanatics, basically the guys in ad agencies who believed that Apple was a superior tool for graphics, were just disappearing. They couldn't justify using Apples anymore. I mean, the machines were bad. And at the same time, Windows had really improved a lot, because there was a difference before, but Windows, with the release that they made, I think it was in 95, 96, it was Windows 95, really made huge leaps forward. And there was no real reason to use an Apple anymore, except if you were a die-hard Apple fanatic. And market share was just going down like crazy. Steve Jobs was running Next Computers, and he came back, and his job was to turn Apple around. And I remember the first time that I met Steve. I had, by the way, dressed down because I was meeting Steve Jobs, so I wore like a pair of sneakers and a pair of jeans, and he comes and he's barefoot in a pair of shorts. I thought I was going to a wedding. And we spent some time talking together, and a journalist asked me the other day, did he tell you that he wanted to make this the second most valuable company in the world? And I said, no way. All that he said was, I want to make a dent on the universe. That's all he said. He added to that, by the way, I'd rather be with the pirates than with the Navy. And he said, good enough is not good enough. The Indians don't agree with it. Today, it's the world's second most valuable corporation, which is quite remarkable. It's quite remarkable.
Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them, but the only thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
I want to read this copy to you. Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them. About the only thing you can't do is ignore them. Does that sound familiar? You could be describing a group. Seriously, we're all those things. We're the round pegs in the square holes. We're the rebels. We're the misfits. We're not fond of rules. We're all those things. We're the pirates. We're not the Navy. The issue. Because they change things. They push the forward. While some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. I really do believe that Greece can be the apple of the Mediterranean. I really do believe it, strongly. We've got some issues before we can get there, but I really do believe it. Now, a bit into marketing theory. It's going to get a little technical here just for a slide or two, but it's important. This over here is called Rogers' diffusion of innovation. It describes the way in which new products enter a market and grow share and grow penetration. Okay? On the left-hand side, that curve is called the normal curve, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. That is a point where you've got 0% penetration. You climb up, you reach 50% up there, and then the rate of adoption becomes slower until you reach 100% down there. By the time you reach there, everybody is on board. Okay? Now, a politician, by definition, talks there, because it's a numbers game. Okay? But change happens here. Change happens here. When you're a marketing person, you understand this. You go for what we call the low-hanging fruit. You don't climb to the top of the tree to pick the apples. You start with the ones that are at the bottom. Okay? And then you work your way up. Okay? Because over here, you generate the guys who start to work for you, because they are opinion leaders in society. Politicians can't work here. They are forced to work here. And it's a problem in politics. Very important, there's a chasm here. There's a big hole over here, and there's another big hole here. And some innovations don't cross that chasm. Do you know these things called the segways with the two wheels that you get on them and you lean forward and you... Well, when I first saw those things, I thought, wow, this is how we're all going to be moving around in a couple of years. Well, I was so wrong. The only guys using those today are guys in Silicon Valley playing polo with them, and I'm not joking. They look really weird. Eh? And then you see the odd guy in Kolonaki going uphill with one of these things. And you're like, okay? Because it never made it over chasm. It didn't make it, it's stuck there, right? There's some things that don't go over that chasm. The internet. This, if you add that up, you get up to 84%. It should be no surprise that penetration of the internet in highly developed markets like the UK is 84%. Because it hits that chasm. Where your great-grandfather, sorry, is not interested in the internet. You know what I mean? Cell phones have reached there. They've reached all the way. Because people just can't talk if they don't have a cell phone anymore. I panic when I leave home without my cell phone. I freak out. It's like not being dressed. Let's demonstrate this with the iPhone. The iPhone comes out, or it doesn't even come out yet. Apple announces a new iPhone. And before you know it, they're like guys camped out outside the eaten for a week because they've saved all their money. They can't really afford a new iPhone. They don't know what it's going to do. They don't know what it looks like, but they've got to have it. Okay? They camp out and they get it. And they're the first guys. Okay? The next group of guys are probably a lot of people in this room. We ourselves, that looks cool. That looks cool. It's got the internet. I might be able to use that. I might be able to use that. And it's made by Apple, therefore it probably is going to work. So I'll take a risk. Risk plays a role here. I'll take a risk, and I'm going to buy it, okay, for 500. What the hell? The next guys, these are the guys who get influenced by these guys over here. Because these dinner, and they pull out their beautiful new phone, and they go to the table. The other guys say, wow, what you got? And they show them the new apps, and they show what they can do, and all of a sudden, these guys want it. That's very important because you've crossed the chasm. These guys have worked. I remember when the iPhone first came out, I chose people that say, you're nuts. Right? They've all got them now. It crossed the chasm. These guys over here are, the neighbor's got one. I got to get one too. These guys are like, what's an iPhone? So forget about the guys at the end. That is where society changes. That is where society changes. It's the crazy ones. It's the geniuses. It's the ones who push the human race forward. It's the ones who make mistakes. It's the ones who are willing to make mistakes, who've got the courage to make mistakes. It's the guys with vision, courage, creativity. It's also the guys who are probably number one to go down the brain drain. Because these are the guys who very easily will go and pursue their dreams elsewhere around the world. There are a couple of those guys in this room, by the way. I want to show you some of my heroes. These are all people who live on that side of the curve. And I have been discovering these people in spades recently. There's some remarkable people. Mr. Yatser. Hi, Tina. You know, I recognize you with your thing over here. How are you? Tina works with Kostas Voyadzis. Tina Komlinou. Kostas Voyagis is 31, 32 years old, I'm not too sure. He's got a website called yatser.com, which has become like the destination online for fashion, architecture, style, interior design, you name it. Tina Komnino works with him. And his offices are in Exarchia. He couldn't be here because he's traveling. The guy travels like crazy. He's got correspondent offices today in Paris, Milan, and New York. I love this guy. I love him. Mary Katranzu. The next big thing in global fashion, not my words, Vogue's words. That's some of her work up there. Remarkable stuff. Remarkable stuff. This guy over here, Nikos Karathanos, who's got a restaurant called Remarkable, if you guys have eaten there. Remarkable. This guy is 28 again. He's got a one-star Michelin. He's a one-star Michelin chef. This guy, Mersinis, he's a graduate. He's one of the top bioengineers in the world at MIT. This guy works with DNA. He manipulates it. He gets nature to produce things for him. And he's produced a smelling machine based on the DNA of a dog's nose. This is absolutely serious. It's like science fiction. This thing sniffs out cancer before the symptoms of cancer arrive. That's that little genius down there, 36. Alexander Payne. He won an Oscar recently and thanked his mother in Greek. His mother must have loved him. Ella, baby. Thor, the cameraman, is a guy called Haris Zamboulakos, a very good friend of mine. He's the best cameraman in Hollywood today. This guy's great. He did the movie, by the way, that ABBA thing, which I really didn't like. That over there is Vangelis Stephanopoulos, who's going to be playing the piano for us later on tonight. And this is like, Greece is for lovers. Look at this. Look at this. By the way, I'm saving up for one of these. I'm saving up for one of these. Where's Christine? Is she here? I think she's upstairs. She's upstairs. Christina's here. You can meet her later. These guys have got a site called Greece is for Lovers. They do this remarkable stuff. Okay? This, by the way, has got past inside it, and it's got future inside it. This is cool. This is soft power. This is what people love talking about. Okay? That's amazing stuff. These guys over here, this is Flaria, the florist. These are little paper cups that some friends of mine did for the Soleares in front. See that? Did another series with faces. Wonderful stuff. Again, it's got the past, it's got the present, it's got the future. This guy, there he is at the back of the room. Stefanos, and here's his dad, Nikos. At the age of 14, right, he made a movie which was, people looked at it and said, this guy is just like the next big thing in movies, right? How many movies you made so far, Stefan? Something like 40. How old are you? How old? 22. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. We know who that is, right? There he is right there. And that's that remarkable thing that did so much and yet did so little because we didn't let it live. There is Vangelis. You will hear his music later. Remarkable work being done by Gia. That piece of packaging, by the way, I absolutely adore, where they're now selling Greek oils and food stuff in 28 countries around the world. This guy is a German banker. Hi, Marcos. I know he's upstairs. He's a German banker who has now become an ambassador of Greek wine. And he's been working exclusively on the internet. He's really using the power of the internet. And he's doing remarkably well in the US with Greek wine. My friend Meletis, we will meet later too. Another filmmaker, Nikos Katsaunis, he's got a thing called The Prism. He recently won an award for a movie that he did on the Greek crisis. By the way, that is another bit of Dimitri's work up there. Those are the guys, by the way, they call themselves the pigs in space, who did the little flower thing that you saw on the previous page. These guys are my heroes. These guys truly are my heroes. And by the way, I haven't put on here the countless tech geniuses that we've got. I was talking at a startup society meeting the other day. Wonderful group of kids who are full of amazing ideas to do tech. And yet we've got an institutional system where these kids cannot create companies because it takes ages, and it takes them money, and it takes them mesa. Culture which avoids failure. You cannot have a culture that avoids failure if you're in a creative business and you're busy trying to innovate. I mean, it's a problem. Okay? And worst of all, they can't get the funds right now. They can't get the funds. And they're being attracted by countries like Chile, who will, if you move to Santiago and set up there, they'll give you $50,000 as a grant because they're trying to build their own soft power base. And the whole bunch of Greeks who are moving to Santiago. That's a disaster. That's a total disaster. I think it's #1 priority for this country to set up a creative zone, just like a free trade zone, a free creative zone, somewhere in Athens, somewhere on the Attica coast, to let kids like this create and to let them achieve their dreams. We're living through very stormy weather. And there's no doubt that we're at a defining moment in our history. But we've got to remember something. This is one little, in a long line. History is just a line of dots. This storm is going to pass. And these line of dots, at the end of the day, are all about once upon a time and happily ever after. We live in a country called forever. This country has got such a strong concept that it's impossible. It would be arrogant to think that we're going to destroy it. All that we might destroy is ourselves. But this country is called forever. And this weekend, I'm very active on the internet. Since my talk in Thessaloniki, I've developed a very large community where we talk about things, and I put out ideas, and I put this idea up. Hello. When you need a break from this crazy world, come home for a few days and refresh your spirit. Something from home will go back with you, deep inside you, and it's yours to keep forever. With love, Greece. Forever. And forget the art logo with the 9 little circles around it. I guess somebody's heard my comments about that in the past, right? So we won't even go there, right? Hello. When the world clouds your thoughts, come home, relax, soak up the warmth, and then take the sound of home back with you. It lasts forever. That's what we sell. We're timeless. We're totally timeless. With its imperfections, by the way. Somebody said to me, those chairs don't have a back. We need to fix chairs up before we advertise. Do me a favor. Get real. Remember India? Hello. When you've had enough, when instead of wanting it all just for a while, you want a little less. Come and enjoy the simple pleasures of home. You'll go home with more, and it lasts forever. By the way, the use of the word home does 2 things. Number 1, it's very warm and inviting. Number 2, it says very clearly, this is the mother of civilization. It's your home. And it is your home. The whole world knows that, except for us. Hello. There's nothing like home cooking. Take a recipe back with you. You'll enjoy it forever. With love, Greece. Somebody criticizes and says, yeah, that's a good ad for the coffee shops in Amsterdam. We can do one like that too. Not a problem. My favorite, hello, come home, the lights on, forever. And here's one for the museum. Hello, come home to joy, humanity, optimism, expressiveness, purity, inspiration. Coming home will change you forever. With love, Greece. We're a small little country. We've got a huge concept. It's huge. It's huge. I was talking to a TV crew earlier, and they said, you know something? I think that if you were born in this country, you wouldn't think the way you do. Maybe it's because you haven't lived here. Maybe that's true. Maybe we're spoiled. We've got a huge concept. Huge. And it's a country called forever. Thank you very much for listening to me. It's been a great honor to be here.